This video is about composite transformations, about doing examples 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to be finding each of the coordinates, and then we're going to be writing the single transformation rule from the pre-image to the image. We will not be graphing these. I'm going to find the rules for each of the transformations it's asking me to do. The first rule, translate the figure according to this rule. We've already been given the rule. The second one says to reflect the figure over the x-axis. That rule is x, y maps to, x-axis is negate the y values, so it's going to be x comma negative y. And then it says to reflect the figure over the line y equals negative x. Since that's our last transformation, I'm going to write that in red. That rule is x, y maps to, if it's y equals negative x, we're going to flip the x and y, so it'll be y and x. We're going to negate both of the signs. So now we're going to do our pre-image. Write our pre-image. D is at negative 12, 6. E is at negative 4, 6. F is at negative 6, 9. And G is at negative 10, 9. The first rule is going to be in blue. The first transformation is blue. I'm going to go ahead and put D prime, E prime, F prime, and G prime. So now that's going to be primes. I'm going to add 1 to all of my x's. I'm going to go through all of these and add 1. So I have negative 11. Then on E prime, I'll have negative 3. F prime, I'll have negative 5. And G prime, I'll have negative 9. Then I want to subtract the 6 from all of the y values. So for D prime, I'll have 0. E prime is 0. F prime is 3. And G prime is also 3. So we have our primes. The next one, we're going to have our D double prime, E double prime, F double prime, and G double prime. On this one, we're just going to negate the y values. So we're going to keep the x's of the blue the same. So I'm going to cover up the black of the blue, keep the x's the same, and the y's need to change signs. So we'll have negative 11, 0, because 0 can't change signs. Negative 3, 0. Negative 5, negative 3, and then negative 9, also negative 3, because it changes the y value. Then for our final one, our final image, is going to be D triple prime, E triple prime, F triple prime, and G triple prime. It says we're going to flip them and then negate their signs. So we're going to flip them first. We're going to have 0 and negative 11. And then we're going to negate both of our signs. So 0 can't change, but 11 becomes positive. For E triple prime, we're going to have flip them. So it's 0 and then negative 3. But then we have to negate both of our signs. So it's 0 stays and 3 becomes positive. F triple prime, we're going to flip them. So we're going to have negative 3 and negative 5. But then we're going to negate them. So it'll become a positive 3 and a positive 5. So again, we're just flipping them. Flip them. And then change the sign. So same thing with G triple prime, we're going to flip them, and then we're going to change our signs. So it'll become a positive 3 and then a positive 9. So to write our rule, we start with our x and y. We start over here, x and y, and a little comma. First rule says we're going to add 1 to the x's, and we're going to subtract 6 from the y's. So I did that in blue. In green, I'm going to only affect the y's. Now since I have stuff in the y's, I need to put parentheses around everything in my y first, and then I can change my sign on my y's. Then the third part says we want to flip them. So I'm going to go ahead and show that this is going to flip. So I'm going to take all of this and flip it. So I'm going to rewrite this. I'll rewrite it in pencil for right now. Just everything that I have. I have negative parentheses y minus 6 close parentheses comma x plus 1. And then what we want to do to it is negate both of our signs. Now I have to put parentheses around everything in this location before I put my negative. I put everything in parentheses on that location before I put my negative. Now we just simplify it. So we have, from the outside, on this first part, we have negative times a negative, which is a positive, times a y minus 6. So it's just a positive times y minus 6, which is a y minus 6, comma. Now we have a negative times an x plus 1. So negative times x and 1 is a negative x and then a negative 1. That's our final rule. We can check this by plugging in our values from our pre-image. Now this one said to plug in this y value of our pre-image, which is 6. 6 minus 6 is 0, which is actually what we get for our x value, because this is in the first location. This is actually the location of our image coordinate. Not necessarily the value, but the location of our image coordinate. And then for the location of our y value, we plug in the original x value. So negative times negative 12 is positive 12, minus 1 is a positive 11. So that works. So again, we put in our pre-image x to the x and the y to the y. And we got out the location of our image coordinates. Location of our image coordinates. So the front and the back. We could do that on all of them. Example 2, we're going to go ahead and write out the rules. Rotate the figure 180 degrees. That's that rule of x, y maps to negative x, negative y. You do need to know your rules for transformations, and you can do this quickly. The second rule is translate the figure according to this rule. We already have the rule, so that will be done in green. And then our final rule says to dilate the figure by the magnitude of 1/2. That's the x, y maps to, we're going to have 1/2 times our x and our 1/2 times our y. That's dilate, you're going to multiply. And we're going to start with a pre-image coordinate. So we have h is at 2, 2. I is at negative 2, 2. J is at negative 2, negative 2. And K is at 2, negative 2. Coming straight from those coordinates. So in blue, we're going to have H prime, I prime, J prime, and K prime. And we're going to, for the rule, we're going to just negate our signs. So we're going to have negative 2, negative 2. Positive 2, negative 2. Positive 2, positive 2. Negative 2, positive 2. Because all we've done is just change the sign. So if it was positive, it becomes negative. If it was negative, it became positive. Now for the next rule, I'm going to do in green. I'm going to cover up the black. I'm going to do the blue. So H double prime, I double prime, J double prime, and K double prime. So from the blue, I'm going to add 2 to all the x's and add 2 to all the y's. So all the x's I'm going to add 2. So negative 2 plus 2 is 0. 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 plus 2 is 4. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Then all the y's, I'm also going to add 2 to. So I get negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. 2 plus 2 is 4. And 2 plus 2 is 4. Now I have my double primes. Now the final one is you're going to have H triple prime, I triple prime, J triple prime, and K triple prime. This one says we're going to take half of x and half of y. So you're just multiply half times x. That's really just saying half of x. These have to be the same number. The translations did not have to be. It was just, it happened to be that they were the same. But dilations have to have the same value of k. So we're going to take half of x and y. So half of 0 is 0. Half of 4 is 2. Half of 0 is 0. Half of 4 is 2, so we'll have 2, 2. We'll have 0, and half of 4 is 2 again. So these are our final coordinates. Now for our rule that we want to do, we're going to start with our x and our y. The first thing we want to do is to negate both the x and the y. So I'm going to put a negative blue on our x and my y. Since I didn't have anything around my x originally, I don't have to put parentheses yet. Now for the green, I did want to add 2 and add 2. Now that I have something on my x, I have to put parentheses. And then I can put plus 2. Since I have something on my y, I need to put parentheses, and then I can add 2. For the last one on the red, I wanted to actually do half of all of it. So since I take the entire thing here, and I have to put parentheses around the entire thing, I just multiply it by 1/2. For the y's, I put parentheses around the entire thing in the y area, and I put 1/2. So now we actually have to multiply out. So we have xy maps to. I have 1/2 times negative x and to a positive 2 because of those parentheses. So 1/2 times negative x is a negative 1/2 x, and then a 1/2 times a positive 2 is a positive 1, comma. I do the same thing with the 1/2 on the y, so 1/2 times that negative y is negative 1/2 y, and then 1/2 times that positive 2 is a positive 1, so plus 1. So this is actually our rule. So if we go from our pre-image to our final image, so if we take negative 1/2 of x, so negative 1/2 of 2 is a negative 1. Then we're going to add 1 to that, which gives us negative 1 plus 1 is 0. And this gives us our location, so it's going to be in the front of our x, so this is going to be our x coordinate. We can do the same thing with our y, so negative 1/2 times the 2 is again negative 1, plus 1 is 0. So this gives us our location on our h triple prime, which was 0 here as well. So that is the correct rule. Going to the next example, we're going to do the exact same thing. So the rules, first rule is reflect over the figure y, or reflect over y-axis, which is the xy maps to negative x comma y, because you're negating the x's. The next one is a size transformation of magnitude 2. That's a dilation. Size transformation changes the size. That's dilation. That's the xy maps to 2x, 2y, because they have to be the same value. And then the last one says to rotate the figure 90 degrees clockwise about the origin. This is bad. Clockwise is not good. So we want to change this to the counter equivalent. 90 degrees clockwise is really 270 degrees counterclockwise. So this is xy maps to. For 270 degrees counterclockwise, it's going to be y comma negative x. So now we just go through here and do all of our rules. So we have L is at 7.2, M is at 0.9, N is at -6, -5, and P is at 1, -12. So for the blue, we're just going to negate the x values. So we have L prime, M prime, N prime, and P prime. Just negate all the x values. So we'll have -7, +2, 0.9, because you can't negate 0, +6, -5, and then -1, -12. You just negate it, you just change all the signs on the x's. You did not touch the y's, you just rewrote them. So for the green, we're going to have L double prime, M double prime, N double prime, and P double prime. And what we're doing with all these is we're just multiplying all of them by 2. So we're multiplying all these numbers by 2. So we have -14, 4, 0, 18, 12, -10, and -2, -24. Again, you're just multiplying all of the blue numbers, because you never go back to the pre-image, all the blue numbers by 2 to get to the green. So now we'll use the green to get to the red. So we'll have L triple prime, M triple prime, N triple prime, and P triple prime. What we do here is we have to flip them, but then we negate the back number. So we flip them first, so 4 and then -14, and then we negate the back, so that becomes a +14. We flip, we have 18 and then 0, and then we negate the 0, which we can't, so it's just 18, 0. Then on N triple prime, we flip them, so it's -10 and then 12. Then we negate the back number, so that +12 becomes a -12. And then P triple prime, you flip them, so it becomes negative 24 and then a negative 2. But then we have to negate the back number, so that negative 2 becomes a positive 2. And those are all of our coordinates. Now for our rule, again, we start with x, comma, y. The first thing we do is we're just negating the x's. So I'm going to put a negative sign on my x, just a blue negative. The next thing, we're going to multiply both of them by 2. Now, since I have something on my x already, I have to put parentheses around this and put times 2. Since I have nothing already attached to my y, I don't have to put parentheses, I just put times 2. Then it says we have to flip them and then negate the back. So that's the first thing we want to do is flip them. So I'm just going to say this is flipping. I'm going to write this in pencil what I have. So this goes in the first location. So I have 2y, comma. Then I have that 2 parentheses negative x close parentheses. Then once I have it flipped, I want to take my back part and just negate that. So everything in the back, I put parentheses around it, and I put a negative on it. And now we just simplify this. So in the first part, in the front section, I just have 2y, nothing else attached to it, so it's just 2y, comma. In the back, I have a negative times 2, which is negative 2, times a negative x, which is a positive 2x. So my rule is actually 2y, 2x. So if I go back to my original, I'm going to plug in for my x location. To get my x location, I have to plug in my y value. For my preimage, or my domain, this is my domain, this will give me my range. So I plug in the y, so the 2. 2 times 2 is 4, and this is the x location of my final image, which is 4, which is correct. Then for my y location, I plug in the x coordinate of 7. 2 times 7 is 14, and the y location is correct. So then my rule should be correct. This last example on just doing all of the rules, we're going to have blue, so rotate 270 degrees clockwise. So again, clockwise is bad. Clockwise is bad. We actually want 90 degrees counterclockwise. 90 degrees counterclockwise. So that rule is xy maps to negative y, x. And then the final rule is going to be in red. Horizontal component, again, that's that fancy terminology. That's x, y maps to. Horizontal component is attached to the x's. This is horizontal of a positive 5. So it's just x plus 5. This is a translation, comma. Vertical component is the y's, and it's saying a vertical component of negative 2, which is really just minus 2. So this is a translation. Anytime you see a horizontal component, that's a translation. If you see a size transformation, that is a dilation. So now we can go in and do all of our coordinates. So we have Q is at 0, 0, R is at negative 13, 0, and S is at 0, 12. So in blue, we're going to have Q prime, R prime, and S prime. We're going to flip them and then negate the front number. So we're going to flip them. So we're going to have 0, 0, and then we're going to negate the front number, which is just 0, so you can't negate it. R prime, we're going to flip them, so it's 0, negative 13. We're going to negate the front number, which is 0, so we can't negate that. S prime, we're going to flip them, so it's 12, 0. We're going to negate the front number, which is that 12, so that becomes a negative 12. For our final one, this is actually going to go up to Q double prime, R double prime, and S double prime. All the other ones went up to triple prime. This one just went up to double prime, which is perfectly fine. This one says we're going to add 5 to all of the x's. So let's go add 5 to all of the x's. So 0 plus 5 is 5, 0 plus 5 is 5, and negative 12 plus 5 is negative 7. Then for all of our y values, we're going to subtract 2. So 0 minus 2 is negative 2. Negative 13 minus 2 is negative 15. And then 0 minus 2 again is negative 2. And those are all of our coordinates. Now for the rule, to write the rule, we're going to use all this again. So we have our x, comma, and then we have our y. The first thing we have to do is, it's in the blue, we have to actually flip them first. So I'll do my flip. Almost looks like a smiley face. So I have my y, comma, x. Then I can negate my y value. So I just put the negative on there. Then you have just in red. So on my x's, I'm not actually adding it to the x's. I actually have to add it to that location. Because it's in the front section, you have to do it to the front section. So we take this front section and add the 5 to it. And we take this back section and we subtract the 2 from it. And now we just write our rule. So we have x, y maps to negative y. There's nothing outside of it to distribute, so it's just negative y plus 5. Comma. Then we just have x minus 2. So again, we're going to check this. And again, we put in our preimage into the letter, it says, but we get out the location of our final image. So for the location of x, we have to plug in the y. So actually, let's try r. Because this, or, yeah, let's try r. So if we plug in the x value into here, we'd get the y. We have to plug in the y to get our x. So we want the location of our x. That's our first location. So I have to plug in the y. That's a 0. Negative 0 plus 5 is 5. Is the x location of our r double prime, which is correct. To get the y location of our final image, we take the x coordinate from our preimage, negative 13, subtract 2, gives us negative 15. So again, this is the y location of our final image, which is negative 15. So that means that this was correct. So again, when you are checking them, you plug in the letter to the letter. For preimage letter, preimage value goes to the letter, but then it gives you your location of your final image.